All right, guys, welcome back. This is another episode of the Brooke Report, and my name is David Brooke, and I'm joined today by Michael Procopio of the Procopio Company. Mike, what is it that you do? What the heck do you do?
So a lot. I guess that's a good question to start with. So I started in real estate. I started as a resi sales agent. Done a lot of project management, construction over the years, but what we do right now is primarily multifamily, large-scale institutional multifamily development.
And let's talk about how many zeros are we dealing with when you say large scale. So most guys listening, real estate agents, mortgage guys.
So we'll do between 300 and 400 million a year in development volume on the multifamily side.
Okay,
so projects would be like from, we'll do a $20 million project, and we'll do projects that are 150 million.
Okay, and like only multifamily development in the residential aspect. Are you also like looking at any other markets that are out there?
So we do some condo product. We'll do some townhouse product. We're moving into single family rentals, built for rent product. And then primarily New England right now. We've historically been New England, and now making a push into the Carolinas, the Research Triangle. So Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Cary.
So this is what Mike does. Most importantly, though, Mike was a real estate agent way back in the day. We were talking over breakfast this morning when we just decided to have a little conversation beforehand, and our breakfast actually entailed some very interesting.
Why don't you tell us?
Well, I had shrimp and grits and fried fish. So this podcast is going to be lit.
Some light tilapia for breakfast on 40 pounds of grits is how we tee up a podcast.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like being a real estate agent. How long ago were you, did you get licensed as a real estate agent? And give me the background to that.
So I got my license in, let's back up a little bit. So the business I'm in is a family business. My grandfather started the business overall in 1950. So pushing 75 years in business. The business took on a bunch of different kind of tracks over the years, all tangentially related to real estate, construction, that kind of stuff. For me personally, I came into the business in 2002. Got my real estate license as a salesperson and just simply started, dropped out of college and started working on the sales side because it was great money.
Yeah.
And I loved the mindset of you eat what you kill, right? I had no one else impacting my world. No one else was impacting how much I could earn, what I could do, how I structured my day. And I loved that, right? Very independent and the ability, frankly, as a 21-year-old to earn as much as I wanted to.
It's so crazy how you can get into this business, and I don't know any other business, maybe like servers, right? When you get out and you're just instantly earning cash, no degree whatsoever, and you're getting this crazy high. It's like almost this dopamine hit. Every time you're making a close, you're like, wow, I just realized between a buyer and a seller, and I put two people together who had differing opinions because when we started, a little bit different of a market than it is today.
Yeah.
And you're putting a buyer and seller together, and man, it's like it lights up in your brain. You're like, I want more of that. And on top of it, it's rewarding because you get this decent check, right, when you're younger.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And what drove me then is not much different than what drives me now in terms of kind of how I view my mission, right? So it's really easy in this business, in any business, right, in life, to get fixated on the dollars, get fixated on the money, get fixated on the lifestyle. For me, I always took a tremendous amount of pleasure from the concept of speaking into and affecting someone's home, right? If you deconstruct the idea of a home for somebody, whether from the real estate side or from my side now, building apartment buildings. So part of our mission is we exist to create extraordinary places to live.
I love that mission statement.
It's very carefully worded, right? If you think about how people live, they spend more time in their home than anywhere else. They are more impacted by their home than maybe anything else in their life. They form more core memories in their home than anything else in their life. It's where they interact with their kids. It's where they interact with their spouse. It's where they build their family. It's where they have all of their biggest life impact events are centered around the home. We get to speak into that. As realtors, we get to help craft that narrative. Is there anything cooler? Is there anything more impactful? As a builder, as a multifamily developer, I get to speak into that. I get to shape that for people and really have an extraordinary impact on people's lives. That's really what drives. That's what I love about this business. It's not as much about the money or about the culture or about the lifestyle. And maybe that's something that comes with age. You start to see that more. But it's really, really impactful when you see the impact you've made in people's lives, especially now. For both of us looking back, I mean, you can look back and find clients, from 15 years ago and the memories that they've formed in a house that you worked through with them to make their own, right?
There's nothing like getting a text message or an email that just says, hey, just wanted to let you know, we repainted this room, and by the way, I wanted to welcome, Charlie into our life. And you get a photo of that, and hey, remember when we were looking for this house and we were anticipating on growing a family, take a look at this. There is nothing more exciting than that. But for you, there's a heritage there. There's the family business. You talked a little bit about residential sales, but it was really your family was on the building side in construction. So tell me about that and how that impacted your real estate sales career, because some of us, come right out and, we didn't have a background of construction. I happen to only have a year or two of it. What's it like for you to have that background, and how did you view the process of selling properties a little bit differently? Because I'm guessing that you had a little bit more of an education than the average realtor does.
Yeah, for sure. So we were historically builders, right? We did not, as a firm, we didn't have, so the firm was started in 1950. We didn't have a real estate brokerage until 1973. Wow. And really by 1973, the mindset that my grandfather had was, this is ridiculous. I'm building all these homes. I'm paying realtors to sell them. Why wouldn't I control that piece of the process, right? So that's a very natural progression of business.
It's a business mindset.
So I grew up in that side of the business. I grew up on construction sites. I grew up on property management teams. That's how I grew up, and that was the education that I had. So when I went into the sales side, which I was very naturally suited for, I did approach it differently, right? I remember always being that pain in the neck realtor who would be reading the listings, and I would see the words and I would be like, that's the wrong word. That's not a cathedral ceiling. That's a vaulted ceiling, right? There's a difference, right? Those types of things, even though they're kind of silly talking about them, that was the mindset I had. I grew up in the architecture world. I grew up in the construction world, and it brought a little bit of a different spin to how I interacted with my clients and how I guided them through that process, because I viewed that as very advisory.
Yeah, and I think that that's so key, because for us, I mean, I used to have, realtors go for 2 weekends in Massachusetts. You could go and get your license. You go Saturday, Sunday. You apply to PSI, you get your test, and then bam, you're a realtor. But in those sort of classes, you're never learning as to the components, the construction, the architecture. You know nothing of that. And then you're immediately like, hey, let's get some business cards. Let's go out there and start selling. You get a few hits of that dopamine from putting deals together, and you figure, well, I have enough information in order to get the thing that I want, which is the money. But it never allows you to really get into that business owner's mindset of how to run your business. Right. And the question is, like, it kind of leaves realtors kind of hanging out there without a lot of value, which is why we see so much disruption in our industry.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say and still say most realtors are dumb and broke.
Say that again,
right?
because
most realtors are dumb and broke. And I don't say that to be insulting. I was one, right? But I say it because it goes to the core mindset of what drives a lot of real estate agents and why they're not able to take the leap.
And why do you feel like that is?
There's no excuse for a realtor, a good realtor, a full-time realtor who is committed to their craft. There's no excuse for them to be broke, right? They have the potential to earn $500,000 a year.
That's right.
Right? There's no excuse to be broke, right? There's no excuse to not be educated in your craft. And in many years of watching this, what I've learned is that many realtors do not understand the mindset that they are a business owner. They are a small business owner. They are running a business. They are not a W-2 employee. They are not a wage earner. They are not someone who's punching a clock. Most agents that ever worked for me, and most agents in the world, if they have $100,000 in gross commissions, they spend probably $110,000 a year.
That's right.
Right? Whereas if you put that and took that exact same number and put it into the concept of a business and said, well, I was a landscaper and I had $100,000 in gross receipts, no landscaper would spend the $110,000. They understand they have to buy new lawnmowers next year. They have to have some retained earnings, and maybe they spend $70,000, right? Realtors aren't like that, and I've never really understood why that mindset has been so challenging for folks to get, because it's a complete game changer when you understand that you are a business. You are not, your brokerage isn't the business and your brokerage isn't the brand. You are the business and you are the brand. And that's why your clients want to work with you. How you leverage that and how you structure your life and your finances and your business around that are what are going to make the difference in your mindset around how you live life and how you
Straight fire, man. Straight fire. That's exactly what's going on. You know, when we have our training programs, our first class, people would always say like, oh, you got to teach the purchase contract first. Nope, we don't do that. Oh, you know what? You even have to talk time blocking first. Nope. We talk as we bring people to a budget. And we say, we want you to do a budget first for yourself. Because every realtor that's out there, they're like, they sit on this black couch in my office in Simsbury, and I say, what are your goals? And 9 times out of 10, every single one, I want to earn $100,000. I want to earn $100,000. I'm like, what does $100,000 mean to you? And then when you dig into that, and we actually do budgets with our team agents and other agents from around, they find, you know what? I'm actually living off of 95. I'm living off of 110. I need to sell far more. And then I ask the question, are you saving for taxes? They're like, oh, well, no, right? Well, I think that I will. And the reality is if you ran as a business, you got to do 140, 160, whatever that is, and tailor that mindset and those habits to match that. And I feel like right from the start, this is just my opinion, that the government has incentivized the barrier of entry to be so low for real estate agents because it's around 88 grand that gets driven into the economy every time a home sells. And if that's the case, if we can get as many homes sold as possible, if we can enable every single person to get a real estate license, if it was, remember the 80s and the 90s, everyone was just getting real estate license. I'm going to sell my own house, I'm going to sell family members, and I'll sell some, person I met in the grocery store. If we can do that, we're going to drive more into the economy. And that's the reality is we just get to this competency level. That's all we're getting to is competency.
And if that.
And like the number one thing that we find on the internet for searches is like people who are upset with realtors. They're just angry at them. And that's why I just wanted to talk about your construction background, how it led you to not only see, hey, these are the components of the house. It brings so much more value to the client, but also you saw a business mindset from the start, from the heritage of your family. So what is it like as you look towards, it's like you didn't always stay in that real estate salesperson position. Why would you move, right? You can make 500 grand a year doing what you do, right? And you're building your own inventory. Yeah. You had it made. Yeah. Why would you ever leave?
I wanted more.
You wanted more.
I wanted more.
So what did more look like for you?
So more for me was never a dollar figure.
Okay.
More for me was always more around fulfillment and impact and doing things that people thought I couldn't do. Right. So if you were to look at the context of the last, where I started selling single family. So I'll give you this. So selling single-family houses, when I started in real estate, the average house price in Massachusetts was $240,000. My very first sale, I thought I had absolutely smacked the stuffing off the ball because it was a $300,000 sale. I had that juicy 2%, buy-side commission on it. And frankly, in full disclosure, looking back, I probably browbeat the client into it because I wanted the deal, right? So when you go from that to building a 200 or 300 unit high-rise, high-luxury apartment building that you're then able to sell for $125, $130, $150 million, the impact that you've had in a community, the impact you've had in people's lives, and frankly, the self-satisfaction that you get from doing that, the fulfillment, is very different, right, for me. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to go big. I wanted to be better. I wanted to actually kind of leverage what I thought I was going to be really good at. And I quickly learned in real estate, while I was really good at it, it wasn't necessarily my gift. It wasn't necessarily what I was meant to do, even though I was good at it.
So there's a reason I asked you to come and do this podcast, right? Like most of the guys who we bring on this podcast, construction, mortgage, insurance, that sort of mindset, right? But for you, you had started as a realtor, and then you decided that you wanted more. It's obvious. You can see that. And what I'd love to encourage in realtors' minds is that they jumped into this business because they wanted more.
Yeah.
That's what they wanted. They're coming from being a teacher. They're coming from being, I'm working in insurance, and I don't want to do the day-to-day. I got to get out of this rackage. I want more. But the encouragement is don't stop there.
Right.
Don't stop at competency because you can close a couple of deals. Don't stop there because you just made your 100,000. It's not about the dollar figure. It's like, what is that possible best version of yourself that you can possibly deliver to the world, and what's the impact that you can make in people's lives? So, and you decided to actually fulfill more of that, and who knows where you're going in your trajectory in multifamily development.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really, I think it's a really important point. This is not about the dollars. When we say I want more, it's not always about the dollars. It might be lifestyle, it might be freedom, it might be fulfillment, it might be impact, it might be where you see yourself in your worldview. Right? There's a lot of things that go into that. It's not just, well, you could make 500 grand as a realtor and I can make $5 million as a developer. That's not what it's about. So for me, it was about I love building things, right? So at the end of the day, I like to build things. I like to shape things, and maybe there's a touch of arrogance or a touch of narcissism. I think I'm better at it than most people, right? So if that's what I really believe, right? When we come down to what we really believe about ourselves, then I have a responsibility to do that, right? When we start to understand our gift, if this is something that I'm truly gifted to do, then I have to do it, right? You can't say, well, that's my gift, but I'm not going to do it, right? There's some sort of poor stewardship there, right? Lack of responsibility when you think about that. So for me, getting bigger, wanting more, leveraging my skills, leveraging my mindset to grow our company and really produce to where we are today was all about kind of in a lot of ways, a legacy stewardship. It was about, this is what I have to do. I don't have a choice. I don't sit back and coast and say, we had a great year. Actually, we had 1.5 million in total gross revenues the year Greg and I bought the business, which was 2016. So 1950 to 2016, about $1.5 million plus minus in total revenues. We're doing total gross development volume this year, 338 million, something like that, right? That growth isn't because we started doing something differently. It's about mindset and what we wanted.
So what was that for yourself? It was not just this idea of, hey, I just wanted more. There's something fundamental has to change within yourself. And I've faced two things that have shown up in my own life and perhaps in your own, is this imposter syndrome of, well, that's not me. I haven't earned it yet.
Yeah.
And there's this elusive, it's like this stick and carrot thing that hangs out there. Once I attain this, then I'll be worthy of doing something like that. I remember I used to sit in a real estate office, and there was a team right next door to mine. They were constantly ahead of me. A lot more people. It was just myself and an assistant. They used to talk so much about all this business that they were doing. One day, Brooke, you'll be there. And I realized I'll never be able to start a real estate team until you just had something inside, some courage has to emerge in order for you to change. What was that for you?
So it's a really good question, and I don't know that there's any industry where it's actually more prevalent than our industry. If you think about a real estate agent, they come out of that one weekend class, like you just talked about, right?
Hey,
they actually don't know crap about anything.
It's true.
Because if you think about that class, what they're drilling into, because bureaucrats designed the class, what they're drilling into is agency laws and disclosures and equal opportunity.
To check a box.
Right. They're checking a box for all of these requirements that the government has decided it's important that realtors understand. And it is important that they understand that. But they haven't taught you crap about how to advise your clients. They haven't taught you crap about how to work in the best interest of your clients or how you can bring value to your client and real impact them. So they haven't taught you that. Now you leave that class, you go attach yourself to a brokerage, and you get hired as a full-time real estate agent. You go out to sell real estate. You don't know anything.
That's right.
You are now, with very few exceptions, well-run teams. I know you run a team model here. I didn't come up in a team model. I was a sole practitioner without an assistant. So for me, I was 21 years old, advising adults, successful adults, on the most important financial decision of their lives. You are an imposter.
Yes.
It's not a syndrome at that point. You are an imposter.
And a chosen one is that. Yeah.
You don't know anything. Like, why? Right? And so to even be functional in that job, you have to fake it.
That's right. Why is it like the number one phrase? They're like, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And I yell at people, never say that.
Right.
Why would you ever fake it?
Right. And as that rookie, you are an imposter, and especially in our business. Most other businesses, most other things you think about. You come out of school and you go become a teacher, you're really not an imposter. You've been trained to be a teacher. You might not have figured everything out, but you know how to do it, right? You're a lawyer, you're a rookie lawyer in the courtroom for the first time. Yeah, you're nervous. It's your first time in a courtroom, but you have been trained to be a lawyer. You know how to do it. Realtors are different. You are thrown into the fire and you are an imposter. It's really, really, really hard, I've found, for most people to break that. And suddenly, you've got a realtor who's 45 years old. They've been doing it for 25 years. They're at the top of their game. And you know what they still tell themselves every night? I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. Are my clients going to find out that I really don't know what I'm talking about? I heard a term today that I never heard before. I must be an idiot, right? And that's crap, right? And I literally there was a moment in my life. My grandfather died in 2005, relatively suddenly, right? Not instantly, but in a matter of a month, he went from sitting at his desk and running the business to being gone. So that was a very pivotal point for me. He ran the real estate side, the operations side of our business versus the construction side of our business. And that, to me, was a pivotal point. And I had to say to myself, either I'm committed to this and I can run this, not be an agent, I can run this, or I'm not. And I literally sat back in my mind, and the imposter piece was telling me, the saboteur that was sabotaging me, saying, you can't do it, you don't know enough. And I literally looked around me, and I looked at everyone I knew who was successful in the business where I wanted to be, the developers, the successful brokers, and I honestly looked at them all, I said, you know what? Idiots are doing this every day. I can do it. I can do it, right? And honestly, it takes, to me, the ability to step back from the noise of every day. Forget the time your client asked you something that you didn't know the answer to and you felt like a moron. Forget the sitting next to the other team who did $5 million last year and you did $55,000 in gross commissions. You step back from all that and understand what you're actually capable of as a human being, right? We don't understand this, right? The human brain is capable of 1 exaflop, which is 10,000 billion calculations per second. The average human brain makes 10,000 calculations per second. Right? So we're capable of so much more, and we allow ourselves to be sabotaged and our mindset to be trapped in this very, 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 very small box. And then we live our whole lives in the box, and we get to the end of life, or we get to middle age, and we snap and we break. And we're in crisis because we think we haven't done enough, we're not capable of it, we can't do it. And the reality is, if we could simply adjust the mindset, we can do it.
So what woke up inside of you? You just looked and you said, hey, listen, I know that there are morons who are doing this, but that had to do with a level of confidence in yourself.
Yes. For sure, there was a level of confidence. And for sure, maybe some of it was misplaced, right? I mean, there's just stuff. Look, we can sit down as guys that are almost 40 years old, and we can look back and say, look, there's a lot of stuff you don't know when you're 20. There's a lot you don't know when you're 30, right?
That's right.
But in the moment, right, I don't necessarily think it hurts to have a touch of arrogance and a touch of narcissism and a touch of overconfidence. I'm not saying, be a psychopath narcissist.
Right.
I'm saying a little bit of, I can do that better than you. I can do that better than him. I am smarter than him. I don't know if I actually am or not, but I'm going to tell myself I'm smarter than that guy and could do a better job.
I was on a drive. I'll take it in a little bit of different framework here. I love where you're going with this. I was on a drive the other day, and I was thinking to myself, what is it that gives people confidence? Because they ask me all the time. They'll say, hey, listen, that training was great on new construction. That training was great on valuation. But that piece that you said at the end just gave me the confidence, since that's confidence that's going to drive people to sell. But I'm like, where do you get that confidence? And that confidence, I found, this is, a thought on a drive, happens through daily commit, just very, very small commitments of knowing I've just done this, I've done this, I've done this, and those add up to something. And when you look to make that next biggest step, you look back and say, you know what, I did all of those. I know I can do the next thing. And it starts with those smallest of habits. And so perhaps I could conjecture that you being in new construction and working through that and working through it with your clients, not faking it till you make it, but learning along the way, allowed you to get that experience enough to say, you know what, I might not know how to run a massive development company, but I certainly knew how to do all of this.
Yeah.
I certainly did well with that. I certainly stewarded those decisions well enough that I'm going to do the next one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the concept of building on small wins, building on success, right? Everyone knows how to eat an elephant. One forkful at a time. We all use a fork every day, right? We put one mouthful in our mouth. Well, there's no difference between how you eat a chicken and how you eat an elephant, right? It's just more of the same, and you build on those little successes. Whether that's in real estate, there's nothing structurally different between selling a $200,000 condo and selling a $200 million island.
So let's talk about that.
Structurally, there's no difference.
Let's talk about that too, because there's a massive mindset shift that needs to happen, especially for business owners and real estate agents, because they get super messed up. In the beginning, they're like, they need to know that you need to know more. And then on top of it, when they finally realize that they're gonna do away with this imposter mindset here, and they're gonna grab hold of what they know they can truly be, and they start actually winning, and they start actually succeeding, then another thing starts to set in. this guilt of success and the shame of success and the shame of money and the idea that prosperity is evil and wicked. And I'm telling you, let's just go there. From the backgrounds that I grew up in as a conservative Christian, in some realms, it was like shunned upon. It was shunned upon to talk about money, to have money, you were just a conduit only, that only wealth was given to you so that you could give it to the church.
Right.
And so I'm just going to go there. That might not be for many of the listeners, but at least the ideas and thoughts of surrounding money. For myself, I screwed up massively, because one year we're making 60, 70,000 and the next year we're breaking 200. And the ideas of not understanding money management with taxes, et cetera. But on top of it, the mindset of shame and guilt, et cetera. So what was it for you as you walked into that? And did you have any training, mentorship, guidance in that process?
Yeah, so a couple, that's a lot to unpack.
For sure.
That's a lot to unpack. But I do think it's important. I really think it's important. So number one, money is not evil, right? Wealth is not immoral. And there is inherent moral value in what every person brings to the world in terms of their business. We just talked about the impacts we have on people's homes and people's lives and people's families. There is inherent moral value in that. It is moral that people reward you with money for providing them with that service, right? This construct that wealth is evil, that success is bad, that needs to be rejected out of hand. People struggle with this guilt, and they should not. Success is a great thing. Now, obsession with money, obsession with wealth above everything else will break people, right? That is evil, right? Then you've gone down a path where it's not going to be right. But this concept that that somehow making money and earning money and being successful is wrong, or simply a conduit to give to others is upside down, right? That's something the culture has really impacted and driven into people's lives, and people really struggle with the guilt from this. If you look at, there's two pieces that you can show. I did a thing on LinkedIn around this.
You are on that social platform.
I am on that social platform, yes. I have rejected all social media except for LinkedIn. And you could write a book on LinkedIn. Are we still live?
Yeah, okay, so we do support some social
We do support social media, but only LinkedIn, which we don't go live on. You take two examples where language has completely corrupted the way culture thinks about things. If you are an investor and you earn your money investing, the IRS actually calls that unearned income. Unearned? Right? So now the language of unearned income has just corrupted everybody's mind, and now it's a really easy leap to think that money's immoral.
100%.
You didn't earn it.
Yeah, someone else earned.
You didn't
just put your money there.
It's unearned. Right? So now, no, I earned it, man. Like, I don't care what the IRS calls it, right? So you see how society now starts to have a negative view of that wealth, and they have a negative view of investors and people that earn their money by investing, simply because the language has been altered. Think about, jumping back to the morality of what we do and the morality of business, think about the term giving back. Everybody likes to say what we do, I give back. I hate that term. I don't give back. I give. Giving back implies I took something from you.
Well, that's the mantra, isn't it?
I didn't take something from you, right? Starbucks has a whole program called Starbucks Gives Back. No, Starbucks didn't take anything from you. In fact, they provide a tremendous moral service to the community. They provide gathering space, they provide good food, they provide safety, they provide joy and happiness. They give to the community. It shouldn't be giving back, right? That takes culture and puts it on it starts to spin it like it was unjustly taken.
Well,
and you start to see that in all of business, and this is why people, because of the cultural influence, start to become uncomfortable with wealth. And suddenly there's these lines that people have, and they're like, okay, well, it's okay if I make $200,000 a year because that can pay the bills and I can go on vacation, but it's completely inappropriate if I make $1 million a year. Until I make $1 million a year, and then you start to readjust things. But, right, this is what people tell themselves. And the reality is shifting a mindset away from that and understanding the inherent value that you bring to society, why your work matters, why your business matters, starts to understand, you start to reframe the construct in your own brain as to your value and your worth and what you're capable of doing.
Well, isn't it such a divisive mindset that just like the mindset of this courage, commitment, and growth can literally catalyze a career, that mindset of fear and the idea that if I have power or if I have wealth, it is only due to me taking from someone else. It is just as divisive to a career or to an individual as anything is, right? It's literally bankrupting you. The money hasn't followed yet. The money only, it proves the activities.
Yeah.
Right? That's all it is.
And I think, to get back to your point of agents really struggling with financial management, I think this is part of it. Because thinking like a business owner, people have been taught that that is immoral. People have been taught that that's the monopoly man. He's the monocle, he's got the bag of money, down with the worker, down with the man, right?
Yep.
And they really find it hard to turn off their employee brain, right? And go into I am a business owner. My motive, while it is to do good and while it is to provide a service, at the end of the day is to increase shareholder value, right? We have a word for that. It's called profit. Right? Whether that's one person or shareholders of, General Motors, it doesn't matter. The goal of the business, the goal of the management is to increase shareholder value. That is their job, and that's your job as a realtor. You're running a business, right? And it's really hard for them to flip that switch in their brain. And suddenly, even though society has told people their whole lives that it's immoral to build wealth, it's immoral to have a business brain, and it's immoral to go into business, right? You have to succeed in that role. And it's a really hard transition for people to make. And what happens is they stay in the employee mindset their whole career. And they make $100,000 in gross commissions and they spend $100 that year, right? And they make $200,000, they spend $200,000. They make $300,000, they spend $300,000. They make $800,000, they spend $800,000, right? When if you had a business mindset, you would never do that.
Powerful, man. I think this is one of the biggest epidemics in people's minds in the real estate industry, which is why NAR stated that over 80% of realtors were behind on their taxes, and that over 85% of the top 1% were all broke in the real estate industry, is due to lack of understanding of financial management and likely due to a lack of guidance and education, because the brokerages do not care. The brokerages work off the units. They're running as business owners. They're sitting
100%.
with the board of directors.
Yep.
They're sitting there saying, hey, we can just get these agents to sell more houses because they're taking it and they're not spending it, right? Gary Keller's not sitting up there spending all of the money that he takes in, right? Glenn Sanford's not doing that, but the real estate agents out there are doing this. What do you think shifts it for people? What education needs to occur? Or is it not just education?
I don't know that it's just education. I think there's a certain piece of it that's education and understanding how business principles work, right? I mean, I've long been an advocate for business classes in middle school and high school, finance classes in middle school and high school. I think people are getting a major disservice done to them by the education system in that it devalues those things, so it's not teaching them, and there's no concept of how you do that, right? I mean, your average 25-year-old has never had a budget.
It's true.
Your average 45-year-old has never had a budget. So let's be clear. So when you start to put things in the context of how you run a business, well, it's very different, right? And yeah, there's people that have gone to business school or have a finance degree or an accounting. They understand the nuts and bolts of how that works. But there's still a mindset shift into how you operate your life when you're a business owner and how you structure things and how you approach things and how you make decisions. That's very, very different from someone who's just focused on how much money can I take and spend, right? It's a very different mindset.
So what advice would you give to those realtors who are brand new? They're getting into this business. They haven't created those bad habits yet. I coach agents and I'm like, hey, listen, let's get behind it. Let's figure this out. Do you have a budget? They're like, Dave, I'm in so far over my head that they need to close 3 to 4 deals a month just to meet their existing lifestyle and the back taxes. So save some people today.
Yeah.
Save some people today. What advice would you give to brand new?
Get a coach. Get a coach and find the people. So I'm a big fan of coaching. I'm a big fan of mentoring, and I'm a big fan of peer groups. So I'm in an family business executive peer group. It costs an amount of money that most people would look at and think is insane. It's the most valuable piece of my self-development as I've gone through this journey of building a real business and a real brand. I can't overstate the value of a good coach. I don't care what it costs, right? A good coach is going to be impactful. And the last piece of it, I think, is find the people. Everyone has people around them. First of all, you are who you hang out with. Let's start with that, right? So if you hang out with a bunch of bums who are all broke, you are going to be a bum who is always broke. I don't care whether you make $1 million a year. That is a fact.
Yep.
So find the people in your orbit that are richer than you, that are more stable than you, that have better marriages than you. They can be all different people, right? But all these areas of our life, right? Find those people and attach yourself to them from a mentoring perspective, right? Find the guy. You don't want to take marriage advice from the guy with a marriage worse than yours, right? You want to find the guy that's been married for 65 years, rock solid. That's the guy you want the advice from, right? You don't want to take financial advice from your broke Uncle Harry, who's chased every new deal and lost money every single time. You want to find the guy you know that lives in the same house he's lived in for 35 years, right? He's made a whole bunch of really good investments, and he's got $10 million to his name, right? Find out what that guy's doing right. How's he structuring his business, right? What are his money principles? How much house does he buy compared to how much income he makes, right? Find these people in your orbit and learn from them, right? Like, so often we're so focused on our own friend group. We're all the same. We all don't know what we don't know, right? And you become that, right? I think that's a real challenge for people is, it's a challenge for someone who's 22 years old to say, I'm going to find a 45-year-old who's super successful that I can be friends with. That's hard. It's hard because you're in different stages of life, right? The 45-year-old guy might have a couple of kids, and you got to put up with his kids when you hang out with him, right? He might not be able to go to the bar for a pop every Thursday afternoon. You know why? He's got to go get home to his kids. But figure out how to absorb some of that life knowledge and apply it in your own life, and it will change. It will change the mindset for sure.
What's one of the most impactful things that you've realized from getting into, whether that's a coaching program or the mentoring program? What's the thing that?
So I'm big in the peer groups. The peer group for me is there's 8 of us in the group. They're all basically the same level. They're either owners or C-suite guys in medium to large family businesses. And the family business piece is, if you're in a family business, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
There's a lot of baggage that goes with that. There's a lot of emotion that goes with that. There's a lot of stakeholders that go with that. So, and then we basically use each other as kind of a closed loop coaching group in a lot of ways.
Is there a director to it?
So we have a family business consultant that moderates the group.
And what would a topic or is it like an hour that you meet over Zoom or?
No, so we do in person. That particular group meets in person. We meet about 7 times a year. It's a full day meeting. Cell phones are not allowed. There's an agenda. We do updates. We do deep dives on issues that each of us may or may not be having. And then we may have speakers come in that are relevant. We may be doing specific topics on things. And things that come up, right? And we keep a running list of kind of things that we want to talk about, but maybe aren't priorities. And you work through some of the stuff.
I think it's so critical to have that place of self-reflection and self-observation. And it's like that unobserved life is just not worth living. It's just, if you're not in that space to recognize, here's where I need to grow, and you're replacing it, you're putting the Band-Aid of fake it till you make it on it, you are going to find yourself empty. Just an empty vessel that is ready to be filled with any of that negative energy that is waiting to get there. And so I think the only way out of that is to get into that place of accountability, which is that highest, truest form of love that calls you up to where you need to be. And I think that, that self-directed work group or the mentoring or I'm in a coaching program, you cannot bring people to a place that you are not yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think some of this is in a lot of ways comes down to also kind of worldview and how you view yourself, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to get all psychobabble, right? But, people talk a lot about self-love and self-hate and self-acceptance and all these things. But there's a lot to that, right? So, everybody has a different take on everything in life. But, I believe I'm a created being. Yeah. Right? I don't believe I'm a lump of cells. I believe I'm a created being created for a purpose. If that's what I actually believe, I have to strive towards that purpose. Right? I'm not here for nothing. I'm not here by chance. That's not what I believe. It's not about fate. It's not about luck. I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. If that's what I really believe, I have no choice but to drive after that. Right? I have no choice but to reach for that and not be satisfied until I'm there, right? Until I've had that impact, until I fulfilled that purpose to the extent I can.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many real estate agents that I talk with who have said, I thought I had a purpose. My career started out, I was going to be a youth pastor, right? I thought that this is my purpose, right? This is what I'm going to do for my life.
Your hair was longer then.
My hair was much longer. It was way better. I don't know
Yeah.
why people, think that it was, it's better this way, but it's not. I really... Look, in the comments below, if you're watching this, please put if you'd like to see me to grow my hair out. No, I'm kidding. So you thought you had this idea and this purpose that you were doing, and then so many real estate agents who I meet, they're like, you know what, I just don't know what to do next. So I figured I would get into real estate.
Yeah.
They lost that idea of purpose and identity. So when they're asked by the seller, please drop your price on what you're doing, they're like, sure, why not? Because they found no value. They have no identity in that. I had a real estate agent literally get out of the business. And, in that process, he told me, David, I don't believe we should be getting paid more than 1% for what we do. Because you know what? I think that the money is just, for what we do, it's nothing. And because of that, they have no identity and no understanding or no value in the actual work that they do. And because of that, that's why they're living. That's one of the reasons that they're living in this lack of business owner mindset, because they have no ownership. To have a business owner mindset, you have to own the place that you're at.
100%.
Not just financial management.
Right.
You actually have to have a culture of ownership.
Yeah.
And if the culture of ownership says I'm a creative being that has a purpose to do something, you've owned that. So nothing is going to stop you. And any idea from that is more or less like, hey, it's kind of laissez-faire.
Right.
Like if it happens, it happens. Right? If the market goes up, I'll do better. If the market goes down, I'll do worse.
Right.
I'm stoked the market's going to change. I'm going to make more.
Right.
Right? No matter what happens.
Yeah, and that's fed into, when you talk about the real estate agents, that's fed into because of the way our business, or that business, has been structured over the years, right? Part-time is 100% acceptable.
Yep.
Right? I've got an extra, my kids finally went to school, I've got an extra 6 hours in the day, I'm going to sell real estate. No, you're not.
That's
right?
like a
This
surgeon.
is a profession.
Yeah, let's do surgery 6 hours a week.
And again, this is how we viewed this industry, myself included at times, very disparagingly.
Yep.
Right? We devalue what we bring to people's lives. Real estate agents, hear me. You are advising your clients on the most impactful set of financial decisions they will ever make in their life. If you think that is not valuable, you're wrong. There is massive, massive value there. Understand the value you bring, and also understand the professionalism and seriousness that you need to bring to that table as an advisor in that moment. You are no less valuable than their lawyer. You are no less valuable than their accountant. You're no less valuable than their dentist or their doctor. You are a key piece of their life. Right? If we think home ownership is not a key piece of life in America, we're deluding ourselves. You are speaking more loudly into that than anyone else. Mm-hmm. Take it seriously and get yourself paid seriously, right? This devaluation of the profession and this concept of I'll go for a weekend to get certified and I'll do it for 2 hours on Saturday and I'll make a few extra bucks a year, that's actually destructive to the industry.
It truly is.
Right? I would be 100%, for us, like, the part-time thing doesn't work, right? For me, as with most things, you're in or you're out. You're either a committed professional or you're not. You don't see part-time back surgeons.
It's true.
Right? There's not a lot of part-time trial lawyers out there. You're either a litigator or you're not, right? So some of it is our own problem. It's our own mindset, right? And some of that comes down to brokerage owners, right? You're going to pack your brokerage up with part-time agents. You're going to have a terrible culture. You're going to have terrible performance. You're going to have terrible client reviews. Right? And you're not taking yourself seriously. Why would other people? Right? Why wouldn't I ask for a discount if that's the case?
That's right. One of the easiest.
Why wouldn't I ask for a discount, right?
Yeah.
But if I have a professional, right, there's nothing, one of the things I've learned as a business owner, we scaled our businesses, is when you start in business, you're always money conscious. But when you're really starting to scale a business, you're still trying to pinch every penny, right? And you're like, oh, I'm going to use lawyer A because he's $250 an hour, and lawyer B, he's special circumstances only because he's $1,200. Well, what you learn quickly is that the guy that's $1,200 an hour actually does 50 times the work as the cheap guy does. He's actually cheaper. The more expensive accountant is actually cheaper. He's actually a better value
Go
to your
into that
business.
because agents need to hear
Right.
this.
Right. So this is always the case, right? You're going to hire, we use, in my business and development, we use lawyers for everything. Lawyers look at all the docs. Lawyers do all the deals, right? Lawyers, we had a transaction last year that had a $700,000 legal bill on one transaction, okay? That's a lot of lawyers. Well, what you learn is if you're making the decision on price, the amount of output, the amount of service and productivity from that individual, like on a per unit basis, is significantly lower than the high-priced guy most of the time. That's not to say there's not always just random outliers out there that are expensive.
Of course.
But lawyers are a great example. Accountants are a great example, right? You can choose the cheap one or the more expensive one. And yes, per hour, the cheap one might be $200 and the expensive one might be $1,000. But the expensive one will do in 2 hours $2,000. What it would have taken the cheap one 25 hours to do.
Following up, emails,
Correct.
where's this?
Correct.
How's this happening?
Decision making. This guy's got to check it with 200 people. This guy knows. He's the expert. This guy needs to validate something with an outside third party. This guy knows. He's the expert. This guy's done it. This guy knows, right? This guy can be completely trusted to handle it. This guy calls you 75 times for decision points. How do you want me to do this? How do you want me to do that? How do you want me to do this? How do you want me to do that? What should we do here? What should we do there? I don't know, man. You're the lawyer. What am I paying you for, right? It's the same thing with accountants, and it is absolutely 100% the same thing with real estate sales agents. You should be the expert. Understand your value and do not negotiate on it.
There's a smart guy who we both know. He told me once, be in command of the facts.
Be in command of the facts.
Be in command of the facts. And we find that continually real estate agents who are not in command of the facts are the ones who are so quickly, because the facts are the value. Right?
Yeah.
We lost so much of our value when we gave everything up, in an IDX solution over to the consumer, right?
This was a huge turning point for our industry, by the way.
Incredible turning point. When we agreed to do that, we gave up so much of the facts. And when we did that and became those who do not have, we, in fact, gave ourselves permission and gave the customer permission to bring price into the conversation.
Yeah.
Because in the absence of value, right, price is the only lever that they're moving. Yeah. And in fact, agents wonder all the time, how do you get around the commission? I don't deal with that.
I don't.
I don't. I don't, because I don't have to. Because when I'm meeting with them, they're like, he knows exactly what to talk about because he knows how to help me in my situation. You don't have to flex your knowledge. You just have to show that you can provide the solution for the customer.
Yeah, and the other piece of that is, if you really deconstruct what is I really hate that word, and I've used it a lot today. I'm just realizing. If you analyze what a real estate agent actually is in the transaction, they're the quarterback, right? Their job is to quarterback a transaction.
Sure. Yep.
They're an advisor. They're a source of information to some extent. They're an expert, right? There's all these things that go into it, but they're a quarterback, and you're hiring the real estate agent to execute a good play for you, right? That's what you want to do, right? I want to sell my $1 million house, Dave. You write the play, but I want you to win for me, right? That's the goal, right? So few agents actually understand that and take charge. Norman Schwarzkopf had a great quote. Very simple. When placed in command, take charge, right? Real estate agents don't ever do that, right? You hire a lawyer. Watch the lawyer take charge. Watch him take charge of that situation. We're doing this. We're doing that. No, don't do this. Don't speak to this person. Don't talk to that person. Don't ever do that without talking to me, right? They immediately start to control the situation. The same thing with an audit firm, right? You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. Don't make those adjustments. Don't go into that file, right? The exact same thing. What does a real estate agent do?
Yeah, hey, man, whatever you want. What do you think?
What do you want to do, Betty?
Yeah.
We could put it on, my advice is put it on next Wednesday, right? And Betty says, well, I don't want to list it for 6 weeks. Okay, that sounds good.
Why?
Why? Why does that sound good? It doesn't sound good. It was completely opposite from what you said. When placed in command, take charge. Start to control the situation. You want to start to control outcomes, and you want to start to win, you got to control the situation. The homeowner's not the real estate agent. You're not a robot, right? If the homeowner wants to be the real estate agent, tell them to list it themselves. There's a million sites out there that for $200 will put it on MLS. Let them have at it. It's no loss.
But why do they do it, Mike? Why do they do it?
Who?
Why does the real estate agent?
Because they don't like hard conversations.
They don't like hard conversations, number one. Number two, they fear rejection.
That's a hard conversation.
They fear that rejection. It is a hard conversation. They fear that rejection of maybe, and it's that identity
they're
again.
broke.
and they're broke, right? It's scarcity.
And they're broke. Scarcity. That's
right?
the problem. They have to get the deal.
They have to.
They have to leave the kitchen table with the listing. And if that means they have to do it for 3% instead of 6%, they're going to do it for 3% because they have to put groceries in the fridge.
That's right. So I think we could wrap this up in a nice bow. Real estate
Where
agents.
have we gone today?
They're dumb and broke.
Sorry.
But we're not, because there are solutions. And the solutions has to do with looking in the mirror. The solution has to do with getting a coach, getting a mentor, getting someone to show you the way.
Self-lead a little bit.
Yep. Go for that and pursue it. I can't thank you enough. I do want to end with this. What's next for you, right? Like, real estate was what was next at one point. Multifamily development is here.
Yep.
Is there anything that's beyond that you're seeing on your horizon?
Yeah, so we're still growing the business. We're still scaling the business. We've got almost 40 people in our office. We're headquartered north of Boston. We're not looking necessarily at different business lines per se. We're real estate guys. We're developers. But we're doing different things for sure, right? We're super excited about really, really well-designed single-family rental communities. Horizontal multifamily, we like to call it. We're pushing hard into the Carolinas. We're pushing into other markets where we think we can have an impact and kind of bring our... Look, at the end of the day, what we do isn't rocket science. Anybody can build buildings. But we bring a unique perspective on it. We've built them. We've operated them for 75 years. We understand how people live. We understand what people want. And part of our goal over the next 10 years is to bring that to other markets and really have an impact kind of in a broader way than we are now. Yeah, certainly this is not the terminus, right? We're not done. That's for sure.
That's clear. And I think that relates clearly back to your mission and ownership of being a created being with a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
And bringing that to everybody. Mike, I can't thank you enough for joining me. And thank you, listeners here. Pursue excellence. Continue to pursue that. See that there's more, and see what the future will bring.
And if they want more outrageous things, they can follow me on LinkedIn every day. I post every day on LinkedIn.
Do you post ridiculous things?
I absolutely post ridiculous things. The more controversial, the better.
I told people that we'd talk about food. We talked about grits for a second.
Yeah.
What normally do you have for breakfast? Coffee. That's it.
Yeah, if I eat, like, nothing healthy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about your perfect morning routine.
I have no morning routine. The morning routine is get my children to
school
school
safely. Did you hear that, Tim Ferriss?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's have Mike on Tim's show.
Yeah, we can just go head to head on morning routines and journaling and meditation. None of which I do, by the way, lest there be any confusion in that. Not that I don't want to, because conceptually it sounds great, but I just don't.
And on that note, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.